Okay. So, how frequent will, say, large updates with multiple weapons, maps, game modes, optimization, achievements, etc., um, will be put into TF2 in next coming months, and will they be mostly community supplied, or will Valve be supplying the majority of the content? Or is that kind of too hard to say?
Yeah, I mean, the way we tend to work is we try and just build stuff over time. Like we just, every day people are working on stuff, and then as it collects into something which makes, sort of starts looking like a big enough piece to release, then we start talking about, what's a package for this that could go out. So, I mean, we can do bigger updates. You just get them slightly slower. That's really the only trait. It's just a pure time to size ratio. The community can help us with that. I think, if we use community build assets, I think there's an inherent advantage to that over and above us building things because, the community gets to be involved and we reward community creators. I think that's really cool. So, there'll be pieces of that we'll build and there'll be pieces that the community will build. I think that's absolutely certain. The exact ratios of that, I guess we don't really sweat a lot. It's not something we think is super important. In terms of the size, as I sort of said, we'll wait and see. I think there are things we care about. I think we've been talking recently about starting a second round of class updates, so maybe we'll start doing that. And then there are other very, the moving. We've got a large amount of stuff over there in the beta right now that's not in the main branch, and obviously that should move over there sometime soon. So, there's lots of stuff to do. There's always lots of ideas, and the community's constantly hitting us with lots more suggestions. So, how it shakes out, I'm not super sure, but we'll keep working on it.
So, there's a possibility of ever seeing a medic update too? I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of interesting. I think the community thinks about that in a way that we don't, and that's perhaps a bit of a problem. Like, we think of when we go back and look at what we released in the medic pack, it actually sort of feels less than any of the, the sort of, like the classless update type things we've done since then, because we've got much more efficient at producing things like items and so on. But it seems that the community's perception seems to be that if we do an item pack that happens to contain 3 or 4 items for the medic, that's still less valuable than if we did a medic pack along with achievements and all that sort of stuff. So we need to think about that. We need to think about, how we sort of approach that kind of thing, I guess. So we'll see.
Will there ever be more kind of story-based updates, such as engineer update?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, right, our writers have all been really busy for the last, year or so on Portal 2, and that's been one of the reasons why it was hard for us to get time. I suspect that probably the majority of times that the community often fears that we've changed our philosophies, that the evidence they're pointing to is actually much more a function of just resource allocation within the company around like who's busy with what right now type stuff than it has to do ever with the changes in our opinions, our beliefs about what we should do. Like going from 3 level designers to 1 as 2 of them jump on to help Portal 2 out, for example, has a much bigger impact on the next updates we did, the updates that followed, than any opinion about what should be in those updates. Right.
And will there ever be kind of like a final update? I mean, say Team Fortress like 10 years old and you finally say, all right, this is the final update.
I have no idea what we'll be doing 6 years from now.
So just kind of final update that's off the table, pretty much, right?
Or I wouldn't say anything's ever off the table. I just don't know, right? I mean, I don't know what we'll be doing a year from now. I certainly didn't think we would be working on TF2 today at the point where we shipped TF, right? So it's the work we do and the response from our customers that really defines, or is the thing which will make our decisions for us going forward. We'll just see what happens.
Has there ever been thoughts of, say, expanding TF2 media, maybe graphic novel, explain like the class histories, maybe more shorts after Meet the Team is done?
We've talked about all of the above, absolutely.
Oh.
I mean, who knows what'll happen.
What about an art book, kind of like Half-Life 2 Raising the Bar, along those lines?
I'd love for us to do that, but the answer to sort of every question you're asking is essentially resources.
Yeah.
The art book is actually just a whole chunk of work to gather all that stuff and organize it and lay it out. It's just a bunch of work.
Right. It's 9 years of
the desire is absolutely there
right
from all of us, but it's just a matter of. I think one of the things people it's important to understand about our company is that we're not like most companies. There isn't someone who decides what everyone is going to do. Gabe doesn't tell anyone what to do, and I don't tell anyone on the TF team what to do. Instead, people, you can view people as resources, and they go wherever they think is a place where they can add some value to customers, and that's interesting to them personally. And so, as a result, there's been a bunch of people who have said, I would love for us to make an art book, but none of them have got to the point where they said, now I'm going to be the one who goes off and does it. And until someone does that, it's not going to happen. And that's sort of perhaps the short answer to all of your questions about, what are we going to do next? It's like, well, it depends on what people want to do next.
Right. Now, if you notice, I, of course, have the Xbox version of the Orange Box, which hasn't gotten an update in quite some time. I mean, will we ever see an update for the Xbox 360 version or the PS3 version?
I mean, we'd love to update them, but I don't think it's something we would even know how to do right now.
Well,
I mean, I think as we were talking earlier, like the current version of TF is something, was it like 6-something gig now? So I don't even know how we'd pull that off. I mean, there's just a huge amount of work there, and until you sort of look back at my previous answer, until someone says that's the thing I want to go and work on.
And optimization too. I mean, because the Xbox isn't a PC. I mean, it's
that's when I say work. That's sort of what I mean.
Right.
There's just a lot. You've got 3 years worth of additions that weren't constrained by a set of technological constraints that the Xbox has,
Right.
And so they would have to all be. Those are problems that would have to be worked through. None of it's impossible. It's just work,
Right.
And so someone has to decide. It's more valuable for me to go and do that work than to work on anything else I could do. And for the last 3 years or so, that's, or at least the last couple of years, that's part of the problem. Is that it's always been more valuable for us to work on the PC version.
Right. And of course, that's with the Xbox version. Is the PlayStation 3 version kind of the same? Because I know we have Steamworks coming on Portal. Would there be a way to say add Steamworks, retrofit it to the PS3
Steamworks
version?
Steamworks solves some of the problems for us that are tricky on the Xbox around updating. But at the end of the day, you still need to go do all that work to make all the extra stuff we've done actually work on the PS3.
So it still would need further optimization.
I think optimization's a part of it, but there's lots of other work there, right? It's just,
Right.
What about any interface we've added? The loadout screens don't work with the controller.
Right.
The problem is much more around you've got, 2 years or so of work, or maybe 3 years, I can't remember the exact numbers, of work that has been done without that in mind. And so someone needs to go back and look at all that work
Right.
and make sure that it's correct.
Now, say you guys do decide to do, say, just the PS3 and do put Steamworks on, I'm just completely hypothetical. Would that include cross-platform?
I have no idea.
Okay.
At the point where, because that's just another set of work to do,
Right.
right? You can do cross-platform. Everything is just work.
Right. Well, like Portal 2 is cross-platform with PS3, PC.
But
that
they designed it from that, right? They built for that.
Right. And now I know, like, say, instead of updating the Orange Box version, what if you were to re-release TF2 on the consoles as kind of like updated to, say, the 2011 version?
It doesn't solve the problem, right?
It still
the
doesn't.
problem I'm describing is not one of the updates. I mean, there are problems specific to the Xbox around updates that aren't super interesting to go into. The point is that's not the bulk of the work. The bulk of the work is you need to take 2 or more years of content and make it work on a product for which it was never designed to work on, right? And it shares a common base that did work on that product that makes your problem somewhat easier. But at the end of the day, you've still got to do a bunch of work there. And so you have to decide, so for example, like with the crossplay feature, for the Portal 2 team could decide for a product that they were working on and hadn't shipped yet, that was a feature that was worth the time it would take to implement too.
Right.
And when I say worth, I mean there are enough customers who are interested in it, and the value it would add to them was greater than the value they could generate doing other work. And think of it this way: you come into work on any given day, and you have 8 hours or so of work you can do, and you have to decide what's the right 8 hours of work for you to do. Right? You can do anything. Like, the reality is, you've got code, you've got programmers, and you've got a bunch of resources. You can work on anything. So the hard part is not doing the work necessarily, it's figuring out what's the right work to do. And you have to have some kind of framework, whether it's you think about how many customers will get that feature, or of the customers who get it, how valuable it is. And you need to be able to find a feature that makes the most sense to you to work on. And when I say find a feature, it might be fixing bugs, it might be improving performance, it might be adding a new item or a weapon or a map or whatever. You've got to make all this. So at the end of the day, people have to make that decision all the time. And so at some point, Portal 2 team decided cross-play made more sense, it would generate more value than something else they did. TF team, or people on the TF team, have to think about that. And so, when they look at consoles or anything else, right, there's no difference to us. There's no inherent difference really between the consoles or Mac or any other platform or Linux or whatever.
Right.
You still need to think about, is this more valuable than any other work I could do of equivalent cost, I guess. Or
Exactly. So if anything, it's, say if TF still continues to grow and gets to the point where finally someone on the TF team says, okay, let's go back to the Xbox, or let's go back to the PlayStation. When someone actually sits down, says that, and said, all right, I'm going to go work on it now, and they just go and work on it, and actually it gains some steam,
Right.
That's the day. So it's completely dependent on the employees.
Yes. I mean, dependent on the employees and the sort of what's going on out there, I guess, like the community and the state of the world. Right? There
I guess
there are many factors.
Yeah, I guess now it's kind of like the consoles are. It's a nice thing to have, but is it completely necessary? Maybe not. All right.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Unless you have some closing comments or something you'd like to say to the community, something you've been wanting to address.
I think I inserted them as we hit them.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for this
No
interview. I certainly feel quite a few people will enjoy it, and I certainly feel it'll spark just as much debate as it just quirled. So
It always does.
yeah. So this. So I suspect you'll be reading the threads of the.
Oh, we read them all.
Yeah.
It'd be very boring. It'd be a boring interview if it didn't generate some discussion.
Yeah. I predict the threads growing to very large numbers. All right. Well, thank you again, and that is it.